a brutal assassination attempt on Xiao has changed everything in the world of Lost You Forever. After all, she wasn't just some insignificant character. She was someone watched by many eyes, loved and cherished by many people. Now, Xuan is determined to get to the bottom of it and bring justice to those responsible for the horrible things his sister had to endure. But with his current political stance, this task becomes incredibly complicated. We see him trying to navigate the muddy waters of power and politics, fighting for the throne while striving to stay true to himself and to the promises he made to his loved ones. Of course, he can't do it all alone. He receives help from Fenlong and Xingyue, especially when it comes to dealing with the culprits, since they all come from the Central Plains. Meanwhile, Jin remains unconscious, seemingly giving up, not even trying to fight for his life, which slips away minute by minute, day by day. Xiangliu, on the other hand, is fighting fiercely, not for his own life, but for Xiao's. He gives his all to bring her back, and in doing so, he unknowingly lets her see his vulnerable side once again, this time even more deeply than before. And what about Xiao herself? That's something we will uncover in this episode. Believe me, the novel and the drama portray her experience in completely different ways. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm D-Rain and I'm all about stories, whether they come through dramas, novels or any other form of media. Today we're continuing our dive into Lost You Forever, exploring how the drama and novel differ in some truly fascinating ways. As usual in this video series, I'll be comparing the different versions of the story, mainly the novel and the drama. This isn't a simple recap of the entire plot, but rather my take on the most prominent changes made by the writers and directors. So I'll be sharing my thoughts on the scenes I find most interesting or important, explaining why I think some of these changes were made and whether or not they were justified. I'd love to hear your thoughts too, so don't hesitate to drop your opinions in the comments. Throughout the video, you'll see the episode and chapter references displayed at the top of the screen. To keep everything clear, I'll also indicate whether I'm referring to the drama or the novel. That way you'll always know exactly which version I'm talking about. This is part 7 of my analysis covering episodes 31 to 33 of the drama. If you missed the previous parts, I highly recommend checking them out first. The links are in the description and in the info card. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the series. The video is time-stamped for your convenience, so you can easily jump to the specific episode you're interested in. I've also added subtitles for clarity. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into it. We start both the drama and the novel in the same place, the prison at Chenrong Mountain where Mufei is being held. The first noticeable difference in this opening sequence is that in the novel, Xingyue is also present in the scene when Xuan arrives to threaten Mufei with his son's life. After being tortured, Mufei is covered in blood, and the smell fills the cells, making Xingyue frown and cover her nose with a handkerchief. Xuan offers to let her wait outside, but Fenlong insists that since this matter concerns the Central Plains, she must stay and understand the situation they're facing. Another change lies in the conversation Mufei previously had with Xuan's uncles. In the drama, the uncles act secretive about the rumors surrounding Xiling Heng and Chichen. They pretend to be reluctant to speak because the Yellow Emperor supposedly forbade them from ever discussing the matter. Of course, this is a clever move on their part. That way, no one can accuse them of anything. In the novel, however, one of the uncles goes much further, telling Mufei that Xiao's mother killed her 9th brother after he discovered her affair with an enemy general. Xuan then denies it and tells the truth. His 9th uncle was killed to save Xuan from his revenge. And I want to add a bit of context here. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to read the prequel novel once promised yet, but I have watched the prequel drama, A Lifetime Love. According to the drama, during a battle between Xian and Chenrong, Xilingheng, Xiao Yao's mother, tried to get reinforcements to help Xuan's parents fight against the enemy army. First, she went to her husband, the Grand Emperor, who had only recently become the emperor and was still struggling to keep his empire stable. As a result, his advisors rejected the plea for help and no reinforcements came from Howling. That event actually led Xilingheng to divorce the Grand Emperor. Still unwilling to give up, Xilingheng then tried to send a message to the Yellow Emperor, and her messenger was Xiang, the bird demon who doesn't exist in the drama at all. I wonder if you still remember that bird. The ninth uncle overheard that Xiang was looking for the Yellow Emperor on behalf of Xiao Yao's mother, and he deceived the bird, stalling the reinforcements. As you see, the relationships between the siblings were quite complicated. And the reason for that is quite simple. The Yellow Emperor originally had 2 wives, and one of them, Sanlei Shi, was constantly scheming and sowing discord among the children to ensure that her own son would be the next emperor. As a result, the ninth uncle's actions led to Xuan's father's death in battle. When Yi Li, Xuan's mother, discovered the truth, she wanted to avenge her husband. But Sanlei Shi threw herself between the blade and her son, dying in his place. Afterward, Yi Li begged Xilingheng to save her son from the ninth brother's revenge, and in the drama, Xiao Yao's mother ended up killing her brother, though she was reluctant to do so and even tried to persuade him to leave Xian and give up his revenge so that she could spare him. In the first episode of Lost You Forever, we see a similar scene with the funeral, but the events are almost completely different. First of all, there is no Sanlei Shi at all. She's not even mentioned anywhere in the drama. Then Yi Li takes the life of the ninth uncle herself, and nobody mentions Lian, of course. As you can see, the drama couldn't adapt this entire conversation between Mu Fei and the uncles without adding much more context and additional supporting characters. And since the first episode was already quite chaotic for those who hadn't read the novels and knew nothing about this world, the drama team decided to simplify things. Anyway, Fenlong and Xuan try to convince Mu Fei that the Grand Emperor is a ruthless man who would never keep a child from another man, let alone hold such a grand ceremony for her. Mu Fei begins to doubt himself but still insists that he cannot be mistaken. And look at the acting here. Such expression. Speaking of acting, fun fact. The actor who plays Mu Fei actually played one of the supporting characters in the prequel drama. And the Yellow Emperor from Lost You Forever used to be the Flame Emperor in the prequel, The Small World of Chinese Dramaland. Alright, I know what you all came here for, Xiao Yao and Xianliu. In the novel, we only return to Xiao Yao after everything I've just mentioned happens. Whereas the drama cuts to her and Xianliu in between the other plotlines to create a more dynamic flow and not keep the audience waiting for too long. So let's take a look at the drama's version of the event first. The first scene shows Xiao Yao lying in the clamshell, the power of her box keeping her heart beating. Xianliu, weakened after the ritual he had performed, is threatening to kill Xiao Yao and feed her to the fish if she dares to die again. After all, he sacrificed his own life in exchange for hers, and although he has 9 lives, it still takes a toll on him. After spitting out more blood and staining Xiao Yao's clothes with it, Xianliu collapses. As if it wasn't enough that he has just fed Xiao Yao a big bowl of his own blood, we need to show him lose even more blood, because it won't be a Chinese idol fantasy drama without literally vomiting blood in all directions. Then we cut to Xuan and Fenlong talking at the edge of the cliff, and there's only one change I want to mention. In the novel, Xuan blames himself for what happened to Xiao Yao and tells Fenlong that he placed Xiao Yao in the spot for all of his enemies to see. After sending her to Chenrong, many must have thought that he tried to use Xiao Yao to win Fenlong and the Central Plains over. Of course, nobody knew that Fenlong had been working with Xuan for some time now. His uncles, for example, see Xiao as Xuan's greatest help. Well, considering her entrance after years of being away, oh, I love that scene so much, and it shows exactly why the uncles are afraid of Xiao's influence and help, and partially of Xiao herself. But the drama doesn't have this moment of guilt from San Xuan. Of course, we see him devastated and heartbroken, and we can assume that he may blame himself for not being there to protect her. But admitting that his political game endangered the life of his sister is something on a different level, in my opinion. Because it shows even more parallels between Xuan and his grandfather, who also had to sacrifice a lot and had to watch his loved ones get hurt or even die because of the fight for power. We come back to Xiang waking up. The first thing he does is check Xiao's pulse. Her heartbeat is stronger now, and Xiang is relieved. But the stains of his own blood on Xiao's clothes catch his attention. He stretches his hand, obviously wanting to change her clothes, but takes it back. Because undressing her is already more than he's allowed to do. And she is also unconscious, so it's even less appropriate. After giving it some thought, Xiang takes off his own robe, puts it on Xiao using his powers, and leaves the shell. After the shell closes, Xiao, or rather her spirit, bolts upright. Confused, she looks around until her gaze drops to her own body lying right beside her. Of course, she doesn't know where she is or if she's even still alive. She wants to leave this place, either to look around or to try to get home, but unfortunately she's tied to her physical body. And then we cut to Xuan meeting Fenlong and Xinye. Xuan decides the fates of the culprits that were found, and the drama adapts the novel almost word to word in these scenes, only adding some lines to Xinye's monologue. But it's not a very significant change, so let's skip to the next one. Xuan is talking to the puppet Xiao, left to cover up for Princess's disappearance with Xiang. He talks to it as if it is the real Xiao and even orders to get a thicker quilt for her because her hands are cold. A sweet moment of Xuan missing Xiao that wasn't in the novel and shows just how much he misses her. Meanwhile, Xiao is also thinking about Xuan and also about Tu Shanjing. But not Xiang, of course. How can she ever think about his reaction to her assassination? No. She doesn't think about him, but Xiang comes into the frame right after her words, so he is physically there unlike the others. Yes, but coming into the frame to remind her of his existence is not the same as her thinking about him without the need to be reminded. Xiao sees Xiang and wants to talk to him without realizing that he cannot see or hear her. She understands that he was the one who saved her and scolds him for leaving his patient alone for too long. Then she witnesses him feeding her blood from his heart. On one hand, she tells him that he has been healed with her blood so many times before that he's repaying her now. On the other hand, she's worried that after losing too much blood from his heart, he can also die, despite having 9 heads. His pale complexion concerns her, but she can't possibly know that he had just lost his life to save her. What is more, his blood is highly poisonous. After it enters Xiao's body, there are obvious signs of poisoning appearing on her neck and face, and she bitterly jokes about dying from poison before being completely saved. Xiang's next move shocks Xiao. He leans closer to her. His face is only centimeters away from hers. Is he about to kiss her? But no, he is just sucking out the venom that came in with his blood. It shouldn't be a very complicated procedure, but he somehow seems too pale and even faints after Xiao is free from poison. Worried, Xiao comes closer and tries to understand why he has been poisoned so easily if he has 9 heads and 9 lives. Once again, it doesn't cross her mind what exactly he could have done to save her life after she was this close losing it for good. Our next change happens in the Xiang court, where one of the uncles conveys the plea for mercy from the clans of the Central Plains. The same clans whose members were behind the attempt on Xiao's life. No wonder this angers the Yellow Emperor and makes him question the close connections this uncle has with the Central Plains clans. And his loyalty to his own family is also being questioned. After all, it was his own niece who was almost killed in the incident. It really raises a question. Why do you try to plead for those who hurt your family and not the other way around? This wasn't a part of the novel and was added to spice things up with more political rivalry and court intrigues. The sequence from Howling, with the Grand Emperor discussing his answer to the assassination, also isn't a part of the novel. From the novel, we learned that the Grand Emperor forbade everyone from the Central Plains to set foot in Howling, not just the families who supported the culprits. But we just read about it together with the verdict from the Yellow Emperor in like 2 sentences or so. These weren't such detailed scenes in the novel. Next up, we see how time passes. Again, this is such an unnecessary moment at this point of the story, in my opinion, of course. We would have been able to suggest that Xiang was unconscious for some time before waking up, even without that indication of time passing shown on the screen. Why does the drama keep adding the passing of time where nobody needs it, but fails to show it when it is important for the plot or character development? I don't know. Xiao sits near unconscious Xiang and tries to check if he is breathing. His sudden awakening makes Xiao afraid, although he cannot see her. In the scene, Xiao once again asks why Xiang has become so weak. Her suggestion is that he lost his spiritual power because of her, still so far from the shocking truth of her miraculous salvation. We as the audience, or the readers, already know that Xiao is afraid of loneliness. When she asks Xiang to talk to her about what's going on in the outside world, it's not just mere curiosity. She wants to hear another person speak and doesn't want to feel alone. She wants to know how her father and brother are doing and if they know her whereabouts or are worried out of their minds trying to find her. And of course she asks about Tushandin. Instead of a direct answer, a crate full of spiritual medicines appear in front of Xiang, and he comments that it was sent by Canquan. Xiao is glad to hear that Canquan knows where she is, because it means that her father and Tushandin must also know that she is alive and recuperating. Considering their relationship between Xiang and Canquan and their rivalry, Xiao comes to a very logical and important question. Why would Xuan even let her stay with Xiang? She still doesn't understand how dire her situation was at the time and cannot fathom that Xiang was her only choice to survive, and that's the only reason that Xuan would even consider letting her stay with him. Xiang falls silent again, and Xiao, irritated at him, tells him to leave if he doesn't talk to her anyway. But when he gets up to leave, she regrets her words, even though he didn't hear them at all. This is once again because she's afraid to be left alone. Of course, Xiang is unaware that she can see him, and he thinks that she's in a deep sleep, and that's why he leaves, in my opinion. Otherwise, he would have stayed and accompanied her because he knows about her fear of loneliness. After Xiao is left alone, we cut to Xuan planting a small forest for her, so that when she returns, she can reminisce on her childhood and sway on the swing. A servant brings a message from Xiang about Xiao's current state. She is out of the critical phase now, and it means that she will get better. The only question is, when? Xuan asks about Jin, and we learn that his state is only getting worse by the day. Xuan says that someone should watch over Jin because he got injured because of Xiao and she wouldn't want to see him hurt. Next up in the drama, we meet our old acquaintance. Yujiang is back and his murderous attitude as well. And yet, Xuan somehow knows that his life is in danger and leaves a puppet in his bed. What awaits Yujiang is a bitter disillusion. His brother wasn't half as decent as he thought. And once again in the novel, we don't read about this happening. We find out about this occurrence together with Xiao after she wakes up in the novel. But it was important for the drama to add this scene here, and you'll know why later. And the the last scene from this episode brings us back to Xiao and Xiangliu as he is once again sucking the poison out of her in an already familiar manner. The episode opens with Zhangxuan and Fenlong discussing the Yujian matter. Fenlong is surprised that Xuan decided to let Yujian go, despite the fact that the man has already tried to assassinate Xuan multiple times. Yet, when Xiao was the one who got hurt, Xuan didn't hesitate to repay all the culprits in full. Xuan's reasoning is simple. He will do anything, endure any hardship as long as it means Xiao can live a happy and carefree life. Meanwhile, Xiao watches Xiangliu heal her and get rid of the poison in her blood once again. She notices that her divine spirit is getting stronger, so the healing is working. Xiangliu, on the contrary, seems still a bit weak, but he at least doesn't faint anymore, so that's a progress. Moreover, after the healing is done, he starts to speak to Xiao, but the words he says are full of bitter worry. He hopes that she will not hate him after she wakes up. Not understanding what he's talking about, she replies that she won't hate him if he continues talking to her. But to her discontent, Xiangliu immediately goes silent and just looks at her inanimate body. Unfazed and clueless, she states that she will hate him if he won't talk. From Xiao's narration, we learn that she has been inside this clamshell for years, and during that time, Xiangliu rarely visited or spoke to her. Finally, she declares that she'll hate him even if he saved her, simply because he refuses to speak. She acts very childish, of course, and it may annoy the viewers if we don't consider some background information. First of all, imagine yourselves being trapped in a small room for years with no contact to the outside world, except for only one single person. Xiao has only Xiangliu, who according to the drama appears very rarely and goes away almost immediately after the healing is done. Not to mention that before this all, she was tortured and almost killed. This also wouldn't make her happy and carefree. And we still remember that after losing control of the face-changing magic, Xiao had spent years in solitude and then years in captivity, both times with nobody or only some very dangerous creatures to talk to. Second, as I've already said, she doesn't grasp the full scale of what Xiangliu has done to save her. He spoke it out loud only once as she was unconscious, probably in a moment of weakness, and he never mentioned it again. So, if you want to exclaim, "How dare she hate him after all he's done?" calm down, she has no idea. The third point is her usual tendency to spout some nonsense without giving it a second thought. And lastly, she already figured out that he cannot hear her and may think that all she says doesn't even matter because of that, and she can just say whatever comes to her mind. But surprisingly, Xiangliu then speaks up. He says aloud that Xiao is afraid of loneliness and gently asks her if she's bored and wants to see the moonlight. Of course, she can't answer him directly, but she's clearly happy to hear him speak again, and of course she's happy to see the moonlight. They rise from the depths of the ocean to the surface, where a bright moon glows above them. For once, Xiangliu seems almost eager to talk. He points out that the moon looks like a bow, and explains that he hasn't seen a full moon in years, since he's always healing Xiao during those nights. This moment of the drama confirms for us as the audience just how many years Xiao has been underwater. Xiangliu then promises to take her to see the moon often, if that's what she likes. He also mentions her ape mirror, where she has secretly kept 2 memories of him, and he tells her that once she wakes up she must erase those memories. Xiao promises she will, or she will even destroy this mirror entirely, as long as he isn't mad at her for recording him in secret. The calm doesn't last long. The sky darkens, the wind grows stronger, and the dark waters begin to churn. A massive whirlpool forms dangerously close to the clamshell. Xiao steps back, sensing the power of nature, while Xiangliu remains completely calm. He even smiles lightly at the sight of the storm and explains what's happening to Xiao, but reassuring her that there's nothing to fear. He's with her. Seeing the whirlpool has brought back some memories from the times after escaping the slave arena. Xiang tells Xiao how Hongjian saved him, wounded and weak after the escape, out of such a whirlpool. The waters gradually calm down and the bright moon is back. Xiang uses his powers to summon snow and tells Xiao a bit more about his past. His monologue is very accurate to the novel, but we'll have to come back to this scene again later. Then, suddenly, we get a time jump. 37 years later. We see Xuan thinking about Xiao. In his hand, he holds a flower pin, a gift from his mother meant for the woman he loves. And of course, we know who is on his mind. And it is not Xingyue. Fenlong joins him and we learn that after Jin's injury, Tu Shanhou has taken over the family business and is making things difficult for Xuan. Xuan asks about Jin's condition and the scene cuts to Jin lying motionless on a bed. His maid is trying in vain to feed him medicine. A candle sent by his grandmother flickers beside him, a symbol of his fading life force. The doctors see no hope for recovery, and the maid tearfully says that she only wishes the princess of Haoling is safe, because only then will Jin wake up. Meanwhile, Xuan meets with Xiangliu and we see them make a deal. If Xuan becomes the next emperor of Xi'an, he will declare Chenrong Mountain a forbidden place and allow the ashes of fallen soldiers to be buried there. Xuan agrees and then immediately asks when Xiaoyao will return. As for Xiaoyao, she's filled with sadness, thinking of Jin. She's assuming he must have already married Yiying and perhaps even has children by now. But then, almost accidentally, she discovers she can move small objects again. When Xiangliu enters, he doesn't notice her progress. He seems distant and gloomy, which makes Xiaoyao wonder what's troubling him. Despite the full moon, Xiangliu takes her out to show her the wonders of the deep sea. They come across the maiden merpeople and he mentions that she might hear their song when she wakes up, although he doesn't explain why. As midnight approaches, he says they must return for her treatment. When the clamshell closes, Xiaoyao, now more aware than ever, remarks that Xiangliu seems strange tonight. He's said much more than usual. We see Xiaoyao swirl as she speaks, and at some point, Xiangliu turns toward her, as if he's suddenly aware of her presence. But as soon as Xiaoyao comes closer and tries to touch him, he turns away. He tells her about Jin's condition, admitting that he's afraid she'll hate him if Jin dies. Wanting to prove him wrong, Xiaoyao reaches for his hand, and he seems to notice it. His eyes are filled with hope and something deep and almost painful as he looks at his hand. Xiaoyao is shocked and asks if he can feel her. He slowly lifts his head and looks straight at her. His expression changes from confused to happy, and we can suggest that he at least saw her outline, if not something more. They silently look into each other's eyes for some time, but before any one of them can say anything, Xiaoyao's spirit is drawn back inside her body, leaving Xiangliu sitting there completely struck by what he had just felt and seen. He takes her hand into his and smiles, knowing that she will wake up soon. And while Xiaoyao's life slowly returns, Jin's continues to fade. Jin Ye can't even feed him medicine anymore. She is utterly heartbroken and inconsolable. The light of the candle flickers, and we see there's not much of it left. Then finally Xiaoyao wakes, alone in the middle of the ocean. She looks around, seeing only the endless blue waters surrounding her in the white clamshell. She calls out for Xiangliu, wanting to share her joy, but there is no answer. Only Mao Qiu flies to her, but after she asks a couple of questions, it is clear that Xiangliu will not come. Instead, Mao Qiu was tasked to take Xiaoyao away. She asks the bird if his master doesn't want to see her. Mao Qiu doesn't deny but also doesn't say yes to it. Xiaoyao understands what this means, or so she thinks. Tears fill her eyes as she walks back to the bed where she had lain for decades. She gently runs her fingers across it as if trying to memorize its touch. Then she rests her head on it for a moment, letting her tears fall. The contrast between her earlier joy and this quiet grief is striking. Moments ago she was full of life, and now she moves as if the weight of the ocean itself presses on her shoulders. When she's ready, she turns to Mao Qiu and says softly that it's time to leave. The camera shows us 2 teardrops that dropped from Xiaoyao's eyes and stayed at the surface of the bed. As they fly away, the camera lingers, and we realize that Xiang has been there all alone, watching from afar. He steps onto his clamshell, his movements weak and unsteady, and when he sees the tears Xiaoyao left behind, he's stunned. Using his power, he gathers the tears into a single white pearl, cradling it in his hands like a precious treasure. His expression is filled with disbelief and deep longing, as though he can hardly accept and believe that she cried because he didn't come. Then, with sorrow in his eyes, he turns towards the horizon where Xiaoyao disappeared. I want us all to understand what had just happened. Xiang didn't just abandon Xiaoyao. He knows where she needs to be at the moment, by Jin's side. She needs to rush there as soon as possible, otherwise he will be beyond salvation. Of course, Xiang wants to share her joy and show her that he cares, but if they meet right now, he might not be able to let her go, or he might stall her. And also, he probably didn't even think that she would be willing to spend her first waking moments after 37 years of sleep with him. Maybe he even thought that he has already stolen these decades from fate and can't ask for more. Anyway, we will never know where his thoughts really went and can only suggest. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'll be waiting. Elsewhere, Xuan receives a message from Xiang, the one he's been waiting for all these years. Xiaoyao is coming back. Overjoyed, he orders the palace to be prepared for his sister's return. But instead of going there, we see Xiaoyao arrive outside Xinyue's residence. Xinyue rushes out, overwhelmed with disbelief, and soon Xiaoyao is brought to the room where Jin lies. Jinyue recognizes the princess and begs her to save her master. And of course there's no need to even ask. Xiaoyao immediately steps in to help. She is shocked to see Jin's condition, and Jinyue explains what happened after the assassination attempt, things that Xiaoyao never knew. When she hears it all, she can barely comprehend it. Xuan learns that Xiaoyao went to Jin, and then we see Xiaoyao again using her blood to save Jin. She also kisses him gently and whispers soft words as she feeds him medicine mixed with her blood in a rather unsanitized way. In the closing moments of the episode, Xuan enters the room and sees Xiaoyao sleeping beside Jin. Tears of relief and joy fill his eyes as he reaches out to stroke her hair, and the screen fades to black. You probably have already noticed that I've described several scenes from both the drama and the novel, but left out much of the novel's description of Xiaoyao's time at the ocean's bottom. That's because the events of the 3 drama episodes I'm covering today all come from a single novel chapter. Most of the scenes in the drama are either completely new or expanded from just a few lines in the text. Once we unpack Xiaoyao's storyline in the novel, we'll see exactly why these changes were made and why in some ways they were necessary. As we've just seen, almost immediately after Xiaoyao begins to be healed by Xiang, her spirit appears in the clamshell and witnesses everything that happens over the course of those 37 years. In the novel, however, her experience is portrayed very differently. It's actually much closer to Bella's transformation in Twilight. If you haven't read it, don't worry, I'll explain exactly what that means. Some moments from the novel were present in the drama, some weren't, and some are kind of present. At least I get a feeling that Tonghua tried to include something resembling the novel's description. We'll see if she succeeded as we start comparing the text to the picture. In the novel, the last thing Xiaoyao remembers before her death are thousands of beautiful cherry blossoms. Her passing isn't frightening, but almost serene and beautiful. She feels her blood slowly dripping onto the ground, her body going numb, her mind fading into stillness. Then Just as her heart is about to stop, she hears another heartbeat, strong and steady, guiding hers to continue. She realizes this heartbeat belongs to Xiang. In her mind, she can almost imagine him teasing her, telling her not to give up over something so quote-unquote minor, though of course being pierced all over her body is anything but minor. This moment with Xiang scolding Xiao for giving up kind of exists in the episode 31. The difference is she is unconscious and even her spirit isn't there yet. And in no way, shape or form are we shown that Xiao feels Xiang or his heart. The drama mostly uses the bug connection to show how Xiang torments Xiao and attacks Xuan, but the novel gives it a much deeper meaning. Through that bond, they can feel each other on another level, and we will see it in the novel very soon. Unfortunately, the drama largely downplays this connection. What we are shown here is Xiang using his magic, not just the power of the bugs. First while he's still flying, and then after he sees Xiao and tries to sense and evaluate her state. Even with that borrowed strength from Xiang's heart, Xiao remains weak, and her life force is gradually slipping away. Eventually, streams of power begin to pour into her body, power filled with devastation and sorrow. She wonders whose energy it is. With the help of that heartbroken power and the steady heartbeat of Xiang guiding her own, Xiao withdraws deep into her consciousness, sealing herself away to recover. Now, who does that heartbroken power belong to? The answer is simple, it is to Shanjin. And my reasoning for that is also quite straightforward. If we look carefully at the timeline, in both the novel and the drama, Xiang is the first to sense that something has happened. And so we read about his heartbeat guiding Xiao's. And Jin is the first one to see Xiao's body. And when he finds her lifeless and cold, he immediately starts channeling his spiritual power into her. He is utterly shattered. Nothing can console him as he is holding the woman he loves, realizing he was too late. That raw despair explains the sadness Xiao feels in the energy flowing into her. It couldn't have been Xuan or Xiang. While both are devastated, neither of them channels their power into her in those first moments. Xuan orders the guards to try, but their concern isn't enough to create that overwhelming sense of grief. Xiang's energy flows into Xiao later, but it is steady and reassuring. It's not desperate. And logically, the grief-filled energy that flows into her must come from Jin. So Xiao falls into a sort of hibernation. She could acknowledge her own existence, but has lost all her senses and was just existing inside of her own mind, with no clue about what has been happening outside. And this is of course our first change, because in the drama her spirit leaves her body, and though it can't leave the shell, she still sees and hears everything that's going on inside this shell. So why did the drama change it? Well, it would be quite hard to adapt the experience of the person not having any senses. Of course, they could have shown Xiang healing her and then gradually start showing a black screen with some sounds, but it could have been boring to the viewers, so the version of Xiao's consciousness in the drama is a pretty decent one. What we also find out from the novel is that the hibernation state was a horrible experience, because what was hibernating was her body, but her mind was awake this whole time. She had no senses, including no sense of time. She couldn't do anything but think, and it almost became a torture for her to be alive. After some time, however, she feels warmth enter her body and senses the familiar beat of another heart. Immediately she recognizes it as Xiang's, because her own heart soars in joyful recognition, the same way it did after the transfer of the bug from Xuan to Xiang. And I guess if we try to transfer this to the drama's setting, she started hibernating after the spell that Xiang performed while flying. Because it's the moment when the power of the bugs started to spill out, and Xiang's intervention forced this power back into Xiao's heart. And the moment where they are in the shell and he feeds her the blood from his heart for the first time can be seen as that part where she feels the warmth. So from time to time she could feel the warmth and a heartbeat, and these were the only times she actually felt alive. She doesn't know how much time has passed, but one day she senses something new. It was only a vague sensation, but she could understand that Xiang is embracing her. Though she couldn't feel her body, she somehow felt his presence, his hands, his closeness, as if their hearts have merged into one, and she could sense what he is sensing. She feels him gently caress her cheek, then drift to sleep beside her. And when he sleeps, then she sleeps too. And when she wakes again, he is already gone. Each time he returns, the same pattern repeats. He greets her softly, touches her forehead, lies beside her, and then they fall asleep together. Xiao felt like he was coming home where she was waiting for him. Eventually, this rhythm gave Xiao a sense of time. His visits become her only measure of the days and months passing. With Xiang there, she's no longer afraid because she is no longer alone. According to her, he heals her every 20 to 30 days. During each healing, she feels his power coursing through her, from head to toe, as he holds her tightly with their bodies pressed to each other. These healing sessions are the only times he embraces her fully. On other days, he only brushes her face with a tender touch and never oversteps any boundaries. Years pass this way, so many that Xiao loses count. Gradually, her senses start to return. She begins to feel the heat of Xiang's body and realizes that the warmth rushing into her is his heart's blood, burning like tiny flames as it enters her. But there's a problem, the same one as in the drama. Xiang's blood is highly poisonous. The novel explains in detail that after feeding her his blood, Xiang must suck the poison back out, not in the way that the drama shows, but by biting her neck to draw the poison out. And what is also interesting in the novel, Xiao begins to suspect that Xiang has used his own life in exchange for hers. She just hopes that he truly has 9 lives, because otherwise the sacrifice would cost him everything. Unlike the drama, where she doesn't even come close to thinking about this possibility. When she finally regains her ability to hear, she wants him to talk to her, but he remains silent most of the time. One night, as he's healing her, he doesn't immediately put her back, but keeps holding her in his arms instead. And then he finally speaks. He admits he hopes that she won't hate him when she wakes. It mirrors the drama scene where she tries to answer him and even scolds him when he falls silent again. Angry and restless because he doesn't talk to her, Xiao refuses to quote-unquote sleep. When Xiang returns the next time, he can sense her unease even though her body doesn't move. He asks softly if she's bored lying at the bottom of the sea for so long. That's when she realizes for the first time where she actually is, and that's the reason why he takes her to the surface. He can feel her discontent. It may seem an insignificant and minor detail, but for me it makes a huge difference. As I've already mentioned, the drama makes some interesting choices when it comes to portraying their connection, and we'll talk about it more. In the novel, Xiang feels Xiao's emotions even though she is still not even half conscious. And in the drama, his decision to take her to the surface has nothing to do with their hearts being connected. In my opinion, it's because the drama downplays the positive aspects of their connection a lot, and we will get even more evidence of it as we go. Just like in the drama, Xiang eventually takes her to the surface to look at the moon. Though in the novel there is no floating clamshell, he holds her in his arms as they swim upward like 2 intertwined fish. Of course, it couldn't happen in the drama, and it actually would have been rather hard to film. When they reach the surface, Xiao hears the waves, feels the breeze on her skin, and it is so overwhelming that she wants to cry tears of joy. Xiang tells her that he hasn't seen a full moon in years, confirming that she was also right to assume that he was healing her once a month and it had to be a full moon, precisely because every demon's powers were stronger in this period of time. That night, the moon is a slender crescent, shaped like a bow, almost like in the drama. Feeling peaceful and safe, Xiao falls asleep and Xiang watches her with a rare, gentle smile. From then on, Xiang starts taking her to the surface or into the ocean depths every few days and show her all the miracles and beauty of the ocean. Well, show is not a very fitting word, but anyway. Though he's not very talkative all the time, but when he does speak, he explains the sights around them or simply says whatever crosses his mind. Xiao couldn't move her body or show in a way that she was listening, so he doesn't think that she can hear him, which makes him even more relaxed and unguarded. One night he points out that the moon looks like her ape mirror, and we get the same conversation about erasing the memories when she wakes. Another time they encounter a massive water tornado, and Xiang tells her the story of how Hongjian once saved him after he escaped the slave arena. Just like in the drama, he admits that he didn't trust Hongjian and ran away, but unlike the drama, the tornado doesn't just vanish on its own. Xiang takes Xiao away from it himself. Interesting that in the novel these conversations happen over many nights, probably even stretched across years. The drama compresses them into a single intense sequence, but otherwise it stays remarkably faithful to the tone and meaning of the original scenes. Through these quiet moments, Xiao gradually comes to understand Xiang even more deeply, and she begins to resent Hongjian a little bit for the lonely and destructive path that Xiang was forced to walk. Eventually, Xiao starts to regain feeling in her legs, a sign that her awakening is near. One night, Xiang visits her and seems lost in thought. He sits beside her for a long time, just watching her without speaking or touching her. Then, despite it being a full moon, he takes her out into the ocean just as he did in the drama. But once again, he carries her in his arms in the novel. This time, however, he is unusually talkative, which surprises Xiao. This moment from the drama is also pretty similar to the novel's version, so we'll skip the description and go straight to the scene back in the shell. When they're back, Xiang asks Xiao if she remembers Jin and explains that Jin is on the brink of death. This is the same as it was in the drama, but what comes next is completely the opposite. Xiang tells Xiao directly that he is going to wake her up tonight. He feeds her his blood just as before, but this time it feels completely different. The blood burns inside her, searing like fire, tearing her apart from within before stitching her back together. She can't move, she can't scream, she can only endure the agony until it finally ends. When it's over, she feels her whole body come alive again, her spirit snapping back into her body, and then she passes out. Let's pause here for a moment and analyze this scene. In the novel, Xiang makes a conscious choice to wake Xiao. He knows that Jin is dying, and the only person who can save him is Xiao. He also understands why Jin has fallen into this state, and he decides to act before it's too late. Even though he knows she isn't ready yet, he hasn't done it earlier precisely because the awakening process is excruciating, and it likely takes a huge toll on both Xiao and Xiang as well. But this time he chooses to risk it before Jin's life is lost. In the drama, however, the intent feels not clear at all. Yes, Xiang talks to Xiao about Jin, but we don't get any real sense that he's preparing to wake her up. It almost feels like her awakening just happens by coincidence, and some might even argue that hearing about Jin's condition is what triggers her return. Don't get me wrong, the scene is very powerful. Watching Xiang feel Xiao's touch and seemingly see her alive for the first time in decades is incredibly emotional and beautifully done. But I still have questions. First, as I mentioned, the drama removes the idea that Xiang decided to awaken her. The novel makes it clear it is his choice. The drama, on the other hand, leaves us wondering whether it was a pure chance and he didn't expect her to wake up this soon. And second, and this one's for all of us to think about, after everything Xiao saw during those years, after the way Xiang looked at her when he thought she couldn't see him, how could she possibly still believe he was doing all of this only because of his deal with Xuan? Xiao from the drama witnessed every single moment of it. She was there the whole time, and she saw it all. And yet. Anyway, let's move on to the next change. In the novel, Xiao awakens inside a closed shell, with just a faint ray of sunlight shining through. She has to physically push the shell open with her arms. And she didn't just jump up and start running around. It makes no sense for a person who lay down for over 3 decades to do so. The drama's version feels a bit unrealistic, though maybe gods really do have better muscle retention, who knows. After realizing where she is, she looks around the white clamshell and thinks to herself that she's been like a pearl all these years. Though she could hear, she still couldn't see in the novel, and that's why she is discovering this clamshell for the first time only after she awakens. She calls for Xiang, and instead Mao Xiao comes to her. Full-sized in the novel, not the miniature as in the show, although I like this tiny version as well. Their quote-unquote conversation is the same. Xiang has ordered Mao Xiao to take her away, and that's exactly what the bird tells Xiao. The emotional scene with her tears falling on the shell and Xiang turning them into a pearl, however, doesn't exist in the novel. That's a completely original addition by the drama, and a beautiful one in my opinion. In the novel, Xiao doesn't know whether Xiang is away on business or avoiding her on purpose. But either way, her initial joy at waking quickly fades. She climbs onto Mao Xiao's back, and as they fly over the vast ocean, her emotions are tangled. Relief from finally being awake, sadness from not being able to share the joy with the very person who saved her, and confusion about his reason to abandon her like that. All is mixed together in her head and in her heart. When they finally reach Zhiyi Castle, she knows that Mao Xiao can't take her any farther. Everyone would recognize Xiang's mount. Before she dismounts, she hugs him tightly, pressing her face into his feathers and crying bitterly in silence as her tears disappear between the feathers of the bird. When Mao Xiao flies away, she stands there watching until he's completely gone. And once again, she's left utterly alone. Xuan's presence wakes Xiao, and she wants nothing more than to hug him at last. But instead of welcoming her, he purposefully avoids her embrace and scolds her for going to see another man before coming to him. They talk, and during their conversation, Xiao learns that Xiang saved her quote-unquote in exchange for a peak on Chenrong Mountain. Of course, the news saddens her, though she doesn't find it at all surprising. Trust issues, I guess. Although I find it rather ironic that the next scene after that is Xiang bringing more incredibly rare materials for the bow he ordered for Xiao. Of course, this scene isn't present in the novel. After that, the scenes of the episode pretty much align with the novel, so I'll just quickly summarize them while pointing out a couple of small differences. Xiao is back, and she stays with Jin to heal him. Only in the drama we see the reaction of both Empress and also Xiao's uncles to her being alive and well. Let's just say they react differently. She gradually learns about everything that has happened while she was away and slowly brings Jin back to life. After he wakes up, they don't hide their feelings anymore. And in the drama, unlike the novel, Xinya confronts Xiao and gets a direct answer that Xiao and Jin are in love and want to be together. Then Fanlong finds out and he's angry. Naturally, they fight. Jin promises to help Xuan with anything he needs. And also Xiao in the novel gives Jin instructions to be careful of his brother before he leaves. But these warnings are omitted in the drama. The drama also adds a final scene for this episode. Chu Shanjin's yet another failed attempt to break off his engagement. This time given an ultimatum. If he isn't allowed to cancel it, he will leave the family for good. His grandmother collapses after hearing that and reveals that she is terminally sick, with probably only 6 months left to live. After that revelation, we see Jin sitting on a cliff, lost in thought about his life and the difficult circumstances he's trapped in. By the end of the scene, we understand that he has made a decision, and once again, Xiao has to be the one left waiting. So, as you can see, the drama and the novel seem to tell the same story, but in reality, not quite. It's natural that the drama includes extra scenes that weren't in the novel. After all, the world doesn't stop moving after Xiao falls into hibernation. And since a drama is a visual medium, it makes sense to show how everyone reacted to the assassination, what Xuan did, how Jing's life slowly faded away, and so on. I don't mind these additions, although I still think some of these scenes could have been cut or shortened without losing any quality. After all, they stretched a single chapter of the novel into 3 full episodes and even turned one line into a 5-minute scene. So I guess you understand what I mean. As for the changes involving Xiao and Xianliu, it's honestly a double-edged sword for me. I've already explained why the novel's version couldn't be adapted exactly as written into the drama. But that doesn't mean so much needed to be changed. For once, I truly don't understand why they altered the moment with Xianliu sucking the poison from her neck into whatever he's doing in the drama. After all, he has been drinking her blood so many times before, it's not like it would have really changed anything at this point. Maybe it was an attempt to make Xianliu look better and go away from the violent nature of the healing process. But considering some of the changes that we will discover in the later episodes and the changes that we have already discovered, it still doesn't make sense. If the drama is really trying to show that Xianliu doesn't overstep the boundaries of the propriety, it should have been consistent and stayed that way, not sway back and forth like it does. I mean, they have already made him as toxic as it goes in a lot of previous scenes. Now he is suddenly a decent man for 2 episodes, and after that the drama will make him a monster again many more times. So what's the point of this single quote-unquote good moment anyway? And I want to return to Xiao's thought about Xianliu quote-unquote coming back home, because this is exactly the feeling I get reading the novel that the drama failed to convey. Remember, at one point in the drama, Xiao even says that Xianliu visits her rarely. But that's not how it is in the novel. There, he literally comes back home every day or every other day, greets her with a gentle touch, and falls asleep beside her. Not becoming unconscious like the drama shows twice, but just asleep. And she herself can only fall asleep next to him, because he gives her that long missing feeling of not being alone. That safety is what allows her to sleep at all. As I mentioned before, Xiao had trouble sleeping even before this near-death experience, and her insomnia will come back even stronger in the following chapters, so stay tuned. But for now, we must remember that she associated Xianliu's presence with this safety throughout these years. Then there's the whole issue of multiple nights out of the shell being condensed and compressed into a single scene in the drama. This single scene may give us a false impression that it was a rare occasion for them to be out together, when in reality, it was their life for years. She would lie in his clamshell like a precious little pearl, waiting for him. And when he returned home, he would either fall asleep beside her or take her into his arms to roam the vast ocean, showing her all its wonders and beauty. It's almost as if the 2 of them abandoned everything and wandered the world together. Remember the scene where he asked her if she'd do that, and she said yes if he'd also abandon everything? Well, they were leaving that. Not entirely voluntarily, of course, but still. There is a line from Xianliu in the drama where he says he will take her to the surface often if she likes that. But it's a small detail that many could have missed, so I still think that the idea of them being out in the ocean from time to time isn't obvious to everyone. You might ask what I think about the drama not including the scenes where their bodies are tightly pressed together as he heals her. But if you've watched any of my other videos on this novel, you already know what I'll say. Censorship. It's always present, and it simply wouldn't allow that level of physical intimacy with anyone other than the designated male lead. What I find more heartbreaking, though, is the omission of so many moments that showed how deeply their hearts were connected. Beyond the fact that Xianliu used this bond to literally save Xiao, we get nothing in these episodes. No hint that Xiao felt his heartbeat and that it kept her alive. No hint that Xiao actually felt that his heartbeat was the thing keeping her alive at the first moments? What we see is Xiang performing some spells, then vomiting blood once again and rushing to save her. Yes, I'm glad we see how he rushes to her despite all the dangers, etc. But in the drama, there is no hint that she feels his heart. Then there's obviously no scene where she sensed him beside her, even when her own senses had faded, because in the drama we see her spirit there and it wouldn't make any sense. But there's also nothing about Xiang feeling her discontent without her moving a muscle. These bugs are such a crucial part of the plot, especially now that they have literally helped to save Xiao from certain death, and still it gets downplayed and forgotten in the drama. And of course, it really hurts that the drama reduces Xiang to basically a bystander during Xiao's awakening. In the novel, he is the one who decides she has to wake up and go save Jing. I can't stress enough how huge it is for his character growth. If he were selfish or toxic, this would have been his triumphant moment. He could have let Jin die, and there would have been nobody left between him and Xiao. Because let's face it, neither Sun Quan nor Fenlong would have been in the picture. But instead, he chooses to let her go and save his love rival. He removes himself from her path completely, even avoiding meeting her after she wakes up, so she won't waste a single moment of time, a resource that Jin barely has any of left. By sidelining Xiang, the adaptation inadvertently weakens one of the story's strongest emotional beats, another expression of Xiang's selfless love. And on this not-so-positive note, we have come to the end of this video. What did you think about these differences between the drama and the novel? And which version do you like more so far? Let me know in the comments. I'm starting to write the script for the next part right away. Meanwhile, stay healthy, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and find happiness in every moment of your lives. See ya!